Every time they open the gates, the folks line up, pay their $10 and stream into this speedway. An estimated 250,000 people were here for pole day last week to watch one car at a time go around. Now they're back for bubble day. And keep in mind that we do have some 13 driver car combinations potentially qualified, but that deck keeps shuffling. Prepare to climb in.
And remember, one of the fastest cars that we had this morning was Tom Sneva. They're now back in Gasoline Alley in panic mode, trying to whip that blown Buick. Jeanette put something else in and hoping that it doesn't rain, because if it does, then it's all over for them.
May be able to get an update on that, I believe, from Gary Lee. Let's go down to the garage area.
Well, actually, Tom is talking to Roger Penske right now. If I can be so rude to interrupt this conversation, Tom, what was the problem with the Buick?
Something in the throttle linkage or something broke in the thing, so they can replace it. I just don't know how long it's going to take them.
So right now, all he can do is wait for the crew to do their job, then he'll go back out with the third try on car number 59.
Penske's got 2 or 3 cars back there, back before the buy a ride thing became prominent. To flip a race up on the pit wall at the end of on the final day of qualifying, sat down on the wall beside it and started taking offers. Who wants to try to race my car? Tony Bettenhausen, after practicing, is now back in making more adjustments. Here's the way the qualifying procedure works. On day 1, all of those qualifiers, the front row is first locked in. All of the day 1 qualifiers go in their position. We're down to day 4. The qualifiers from today go in line behind those of the first 3 days. So in other words, whoever qualifies today is going to be at the back of the field. They will fill row 11. Every car is allowed 3 qualifying attempts. You've seen Taze already make 2. A car bumped is removed from the field, and the qualified cars move up 1 position. But what that means is that after the 33 are in, if you can go out and run a lap faster than the slowest car in the field, and right now that car is Jimmy Vasser at 2:18.2. If you can go 2:18.3, you go into the field. Vasser is bumped out, and everybody moves up 1 spot through the position where Vasser was. Complicated? Absolutely. And complicated even more here today by the weather.
And we mentioned earlier that Sneva, there were a problem. In fact, just a throttle linkage, as we see the team of mechanics swarm over it here, that can be easily rectified, we presume, because as Sneva says, it was just a throttle linkage.
Dominic Dobson and Kenji Momota successfully qualified shortly after the track opened for official attempts here today. Dobson ran 2:20.359. Momota, the Japanese rookie, second Japanese driver to make the field, or at least if his time holds up to make the field, qualified at 2:18.967. That means Momota, Tony Bettenhausen, Mark Dismore, Johnny Parsons, Johnny Rutherford, Didier Taze, Jeff Andretti, Fabrizio Barbaza, Tom Sneva, Gordon Johncock, and Ted Prappis have the opportunity to find more speed.
And now we see Mike Groff getting a debrief from Derek Walker, trying to lay down a bit of a strategy here as to what they hope Mike can extract from this car. Now remember, Groff's already done duty for this team. He jumped into Scott Goodyear's car and did an exceptional job at qualifying that car. Now they're going to call on him again to try and get the feel that they believe Groff has.
I think we might be able to eavesdrop on that conversation. Get an update from Dr. Jerry Punch.
What you saw Derek Walker doing just a moment ago with his hand was basically showing the fact that Johnny gets complained to the car going into the corner just fine, but in the middle of the corner, the car gets very unsettling and very nervous. And Mike, how tough is this task? You're going to get in a car you have not been in, and you're going to be asked to try to sort it out in a hurry for a man to get in the field.
Well, really, I don't think that that's the situation right now. I'm not going in to sort the car out for Johnny. I mean, he's quite capable of doing it himself, but I've been in the 91 car and the other one, the McKenzie Lola, and I got a pretty good feel for it. Scott did a good job of setting it up.
Mike Groff, who will get it and try to help fellow driver Johnny Rutherford possibly qualify for yet another Indianapolis 500. It's bubble day here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Back with more qualifying after this.
We're back at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In 76 years, you accumulate some trivia. There haven't always been 33 starters for the race. Only 21 back in 1916. As many as 2 in 1933. But there will be 33, no more, no less. And to the drama here today, because 33rd spot is the wall open. 32 drivers are in the field, and the most recent to qualify, and Dobson. Practice is open to any driver. We indicate that the focus is on the drivers who have not yet qualified, but Bobby Rahal was out a couple of minutes ago. He who will start from the inside of row 4 in his Chevy-powered Miller beer machine. So for everybody, they can go out and shake it down. We'll take you back now to 11 o'clock this morning when qualifying began. Kenji Momota went out and slapped a pretty decent run on the board at 2:18.9. A young Japanese rookie who came back, I think, pretty effectively from an early practice crash.
Another one of these rookies who came here and did an excellent job. Remember, he's never raced on an oval track before. First time racing an Indy car. And this is a good story. His career was at a standstill in Japan. So he got one of the team car brochures, copied it 1,000 times, sent it out to everybody all over Tokyo, and eventually got hooked up with a sponsor called Capcom. They already have a Formula 3 and a Formula 3000 team in Japan. So they decided to send him abroad to America to come to the biggest race. Now, Capcom, for those of you who have never heard of it, as I never have, make the software for the computer games.
Not at all surprising, I guess, to see computer expertise on the sides of these computer-designed and operated cars. A graduate of go-karts and of Formula racing, and he's also done some touring car competition. So he has a versatile background, but his first introduction to this speedway was a tough one. He slapped the wall hard, spent a night in the hospital, but came back and was cool and loose this morning. One of the few guys who didn't have bubble day jitters, perhaps because he just didn't know better. He's never been here before.
And Roman Kuzma, his team owner, and Keith Layton were biting their nails earlier, and he was remarkably relaxed.
I love the interviews with the Japanese driver. Let's hear from Kenji.
Kenji, Rick Mears has said that this is the most pressure-packed situation he ever faces, qualifying. Is it true?
Very, very true. So I spent almost 1 month from rookie orientation, the late of April, and also I crashed the town for last Wednesday, and 2-3 days ago we fixed the car, and after that I lost my rhythm. So my speed was going down and down, but finally I made it. So
what brought it back for you?
Many things, so mentally, physically. So I tried to change many things after the crash. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
I like that kid a lot. I think he's got a future. Hiro Matsushita last year became the first Japanese driver ever to make the race. Dominic Dobson took to the track, our last official qualifying attempt thus far today, and Dominic had a great run. He went 2:20.359. Oh my goodness, I'm giving away the surprise here. We're in the last couple of laps of Dobson's run, and he's using every bit of the racetrack.
And remember, this is his second attempt. He had an attempt yesterday, had to wave off after a very fast first lap because of a problem with the turbocharger boost. But Dominic Dobson, remember, he never ran the first week at all. They had no engines for this car. This is Burns Racing, a local team here in Indianapolis, only does the Indy 500. They have Chevrolet engines in it now, and I think Dobson did a remarkable job.
Dominic qualifying at 2:20.359. He would be inside row 11, depending on what happens with the bumping. He is the 31st qualifier chronologically. But again, remember that there are some slower qualifiers up in the field, or one slower qualifier in particular, and Jimmy Vasser, but he's up there with his spot because of the fact that he qualified in an earlier day. As the days proceed, you always fall in behind the guys who qualified on previous days. In fact, Dobson is the 24th fastest qualifier.
These cars are so fast, they use all the racetrack. Through turns 2 and 3, we saw Dominic Dobson go right down to the grass in an attempt to extract the maximum speed from this car.
Here's what Dominic had to say after running 2:20.359.
Dominic, you like these last day dramatics. I mean, last year, this year, but you're strongly in the show right now. There's 6 cars slower than you.
Well, I couldn't say that I like this. I don't like it at all. But our Tobacco-Free America effort came through very late. We didn't get on the track till Thursday. Chevrolet was able to provide us an engine, and so we got on Friday and slowly built up to speed. We had a few setbacks yesterday, but I'm sure glad the weather worked for us today.
On the run, track conditions, heats coming up, was it a little twitchy?
Well, it was very good the first couple of laps, and I started picking up a big push, and so I had to make some adjustments. The Burns crew worked very hard to make this car right, but we really had a minimum of track time, so I just had to wing it a little bit.
So that last lap was basically the push that slowed you down?
Yeah, it was kind of an insurance lap. I didn't want to push too hard because I came awfully close to the fence a couple of times, and I want to have that happen again. So.
Dobson appears to be in the show. The crowd is here. The weather is holding. The forecast is iffy. The pressure is on with one spot left in the 76th Indy 500. We'll be right back. Indianapolis 500 qualifying is the story of the moment. Practice underway here on the racetrack, and we anticipate that there will be a number of qualifying attempts still to come, and we're taking back to yesterday. We talked at the top of the show about Pancho Carter's crash. Here is a veteran of, 13 500s, had reached 223 miles an hour yesterday in practice and looked like a shoe-in and then hit the fence.
But the key to this accident is, look at that left front suspension. He didn't hit anything with that. That actually collapsed as he turned into turn 2, and that's what caused Pancho's very hard hit in turn 2 yesterday.
Victim of a mechanical failure, Pancho Carter, who appeared to have a lock on a spot in the field, is now, well, let's find out the update as we go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Dave. Pancho Carter was taken to Methodist Hospital and diagnosed with a fracture of the radius, one of the 2 bones in the forearm, actually mid to distal right forearm from that impact with the wall. The radius broken, also some bruising, contusion of the right hip area. Now, about an hour ago, he came back to the racetrack, went in to see Dr. Henry Bach, the IMS medical director, for an examination to see if he possibly could be cleared to drive. But he said no, apparently there's too much pain trying to grip the steering wheel. You don't want to have a questionable grip at 220 plus miles an hour. So the backup car beside me, this 1990 Lola Buick, sits empty because Pancho Carter is not available. Guys?
Let's see now. Does that mean Derek Daly's going? No, we're going to keep him right here. We've chained him to the chair, as a matter of fact. Thank heaven for the statisticians. We understand that Pancho has, in fact, started 17 500s and not 13.
The amazing thing is, if Dr. Henry Bach had not stopped Pancho Carter, he would be back here. They can withstand the pain. Having crashes like he had yesterday makes no difference to the mental ability of a driver, which is staggering for people to think that he would want to jump right back in again.
Such is the motivation for those who drive these cars. What about the thoughts of the man who runs certainly the most prominent team in this game? He's called the captain. His name is Roger Penske. He's come here with a 3-car team. Inevitably, we expect to see his machines up front. That has not been the case in this month of May. Let's go down trackside and hear from the captain with Marty Reed.
Well, thanks, Dave. Team Penske, of course, is always known for thoroughness, being ready. You've got Paul Tracy, 5 guys separating him from the bubble, and no one here really seems to be worried, but yet here you are waiting to put him in if you have to.
Well, I've been here on the last Sunday. There's a lot of emotion that goes, and people get up to speed that you don't expect to, and Paul's done a real good job for us. We took a 2:19.7 the very first day. We thought it would be plenty good, but of course people find speeds, and there's been just a lot of cars just a little bit quicker. So we ran him this morning at over 2:21, and we're just sitting here. Hopefully we don't have to do anything, but we've got to be ready.
You are fully aware that everybody's been focusing on the Ford XBs and the Buicks running up front, but then everybody also, it's in the qualifier, that's could Chevy reliability comes in. And what do you put on this race now that you're focusing ahead?
Well, I guess that I'd have to vote for reliability. Certainly the Fords ran very quick in qualification. We really got ourselves behind with Paul having that accident on Tuesday, and then Rick on Wednesday, and we were concerned every time we went out what was going to happen. You get a momentum going here. Each day you run a little bit quicker. You could see it during the week with the Buicks and even the Fords. We had practiced here at 227 miles an hour with Rick, just in very quick 22 laps, and we came in April. But again, this race is interesting. We've been up front and during the week at over 220 average. I think it's going to be a very competitive race, but I can tell you that if Guerrero and Crawford and Murray and Michael can run the speeds, all day long, they're going to be tough to beat. But I think reliability is going to be a key.
How is Rick? We understand he's resting down in Florida. Gave him a few days off?
Well, he went back last night. He said he wanted to go down to his jacuzzi, his swimming pool, and get in the sun.
He'll be ready to go, though, race day.
Sure will.
Cannot keep that man down, that's for sure. Roger Penske, back to you, Dave.
It is remarkable, I think, that they are not even the fastest Chevy team here, but I sure wouldn't bet against them on race day. Bobby Rahal has become an owner driver and has qualified inside row 4, and he's been out doing shakedown runs. He's just come in off the track because of a yellow flag. The most consistent run, look at the numbers, 224.1 right down lap after lap after lap. I would think the owner should be pleased with the driver.
Very pleased, and what's even more pleasing for him and his whole team is they have run over 2,000 miles here this month of May in an effort to perfect their race day setup. And I think they definitely are one of the people that has been talked about up and down the pit lane as one of the strongest runners come race day.
It is 2 races during the month of May, the race for the pole and the race for the 500 crown. And while we focus today on the effort to make the show, much of this is going to be old news come next Sunday when they drop the green and the 33 survivors of this qualifying process go off and run for more than $1 million. Count on Rahal being in the hunt. The 18th fastest qualifier in the show is John Paul Jr. Well, his backup car has been out on the racetrack a bit here today. Let's go down and find out more about his story from trackside.
Dave, right now, John Paul is riding the pit wall, but on bubble days past, he's ridden the bubble. In '89, he had the bubble burst and was bumped out of the show, but you're in solidly at 220, starting outside row 6. But you're trying to convey some information about your team car, another 90 Lola with the manned program, to Mark Dismore. As a driver, what can you convey to him to help get him up to speed in your team car?
Well, Mark is a rookie, but as far as I'm concerned, he's a veteran in every sense of the word. There's not much you can tell him as far as take your time, and if it doesn't feel comfortable, come in. He understands those things. The big thing is I tell him the line that I've been driving on the track and the amount of understeer, the push that I've had to contend with, just the basic pattern I've been running, and also try to convey to him to have some trust in the people that are here. That's one of the keys to the thing. If you really trust the people you're working with, and you'll go out and try what they want you to do, and he's just coming in here, so he has to learn all new people. And I tried to just give him a little bit of idea of the inside of how, you know, I've trusted John Dick through the years, and I think he's a fantastic engineer, and he will really do a good job of helping him.
In practice, you have been over 221 in this car, but in these conditions?
Well, we did real well last Saturday. It was pretty sunny when we went out in the middle of the day, and the speed was still there. I think it's still in the backup car.
Well, there is another backup car available. That is the one that Pancho Carter would love to be in, owned by Ron Hemmelgarn. Ron is standing by with Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much. Ron Hemmelgarn right now primarily concerned with getting Gordon Johncock in the field, and Gordon is out practicing your 91 Lola Buick. Now, you had an attempt yesterday, did not accept the attempt, decided to go back and work last night. Where does it stand right now?
Well, actually, yesterday when we did try to qualify, we was in the high 17s, close to the 218 mark, and we still don't feel that that's going to make the show. I think we got to get close to a 220 to be safe. We've had a lot of problems with this car. We blew an engine this morning in practice. We blew one last night in qualifying. So we've had a lot of problems with the engine department. And Gordy, he's proven many times. Right now, he says the car feels pretty good. So hopefully we can stick it in line and qualify it tonight.
What about the backup car for Pancho Carter, the 90 Lola Buick that sits here with no driver? Any thought about putting someone in that car?
Well, the car is capable of going to speed. It's sitting here. Pancho wasn't cleared to drive. He broke his right arm during his crash yesterday, so he hasn't been released to drive, and so we just got the car really sitting here. Obviously, there's different guys who'd like to get in the car, but what we have to do now is just sit and wait and try to get Gordy in the field and go from there.
That's Ron Hemmelgarn. We'll be following that story throughout the afternoon here on Pit Road. Let's go back upstairs.
Remember, it pays $110,000 to finish last. Here's an interesting matchup. On the left, Roger Penske. On the right, Carl Haas. Consider that in the 76-year history of this place, there has never been a Ford versus Chevy battle. There's one this year. Roger's got Chevys and Carl's got Fords, and I wonder what those two have to talk about.
Well, they're two of the most powerful men in IndyCar racing, so whenever they talk, people do listen. But a comment about this drivers jumping into various cars. I have to think that it's a potentially difficult and dangerous situation to ask a driver to jump into a car he's never been in, try and go over 220 miles an hour in such a short space of time. However, drivers because of their makeup, are so hungry that they will take risks and take chances, and the danger element gets put aside, but it definitely is there. But you mentioned, from an owner's point of view, the $100,000 plus just to get one of these cars in the field can pay back a lot of your hotel bills and engine bills, etc., for the amount of time that you've run here for the month.
And that is not to mention, of course, the exposure for your sponsor, who puts money in that car to come here and be in the race, not to be the last car that didn't make the show. And so the driver swapping is underway. There'll be no Jim Hurtubise here trying to put a roadster in the field, but there will be fascinating stories unfolding as Bubble Day continues at Indy. Racing all around the world, Saturdays at 7:30 here on ESPN. On Monday the 25th, a special edition at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, a live call-in version of Speed Week with guess who? The winner of the Indianapolis 500. That's one you won't want to miss. Here is the three-car team of John Menard, one of the three cars there from Tom Sneva, attempting to put the third-team car in the field. They have been a star-crossed outfit during the course of this 1992 Indy. Gary Bettenhausen qualifying in the middle of row one. And, of course, the great Nelson Piquet hitting the wall, badly injured. Unser came back to put that car in the show, and now Sneva is trying. Mark Dismore out practicing and trying to work his way up to speed, and you're concerned about this, aren't you, Derek?
Well, I'm concerned that it puts so much pressure on a driver like Mark Dismore, who really is already gun-shy because of the serious accident he had coming out of this turn right here last year. Sorry, this is turn 2, but last year. No, this is turn 4. I'm getting a bit confused here. However, what I liked hearing from John Paul was he actually ran this car above 220 miles an hour in the heat of the day. That is always a good yardstick to measure how well a car is set up, if it can run those type of speeds in the heat of the day. So hopefully this car is still well set up, because the car gives the driver a tremendous amount of confidence. And it's remarkable how quickly a driver can settle down in a new car if he has that real good feel from the seat of his pants that this car is solid and it's not going to jump sideways halfway through a corner when he's doing about 220 miles an hour.
Here is Derek Walker's number 17 moving out. Another of the interesting human emotion stories here of qualifying day. The veteran, the three-time winner, Johnny Rutherford, concedes he cannot get more speed out of the car. Perhaps, having been away for a couple of years, he's missing something. And so Mike Groff, his young teammate, a guy who was barely born when JR started racing these things, is going to go out and see if he can find something that might help this man get back into the field. And there is another whole range of emotions that has accompanied the story of Johnny Rutherford during this month of May. The embarrassment, I think we have to call it, of coming here with a sponsor. The check had not come yet. They went through all of the motions. They had the press conference. They made the announcement. The check didn't come. And so Johnny has to go out and go sponsor searching during the late months of the week just to get the car on the racetrack. Now, we're going to play a quick game of Quiz the Analyst. Let's go down trackside and hear from Gary Lee.
Well, actually, I don't have an answer to your quiz, but I have a question, and perhaps to amplify on a comment that you made, Derek, about how dangerous it can be to car hop. These cars all have molded seats. The cockpit is actually built around the driver's profile. It's very difficult then to hop to another car and make the car work. 25, 30 years ago in the Roadster era, I think it was one size fit all. On the last day of qualifying, there might be 10 or 15 Roadsters lined up down through here, and guys would literally go from car to car to car trying to get the extra speed. Also, Derek, I think you'll agree that back then the driver may be good for an extra 2 or 3 miles an hour. A bonsai run could get the car in. It doesn't happen nowadays. Not only is it difficult to car hop because the seat doesn't fit, the driver can't carry one of these.
Well, that's right, Gary. That is a very good point. What they do, they sit the drivers into these cars. They actually mold a seat around the contours of his legs, his backside, and up into his back and his shoulders to hold him firmly in the car. So they're not going to make a seat like that for somebody just to get in and do 15 or 20 laps. I believe you have to be very comfortable in these cars to actually feel everything that's going on. I mean, if you're doing 225 miles an hour in the middle of a corner in a car that the belts don't fit, the seat doesn't fit, to my mind, it would upset me. I wouldn't like a situation like that. So it's another part of the difficulty that you put a driver into. But the drivers that are trying to qualify here will take almost anything they can get at this stage, unfortunately for them.
Keep in mind that you can sit in the thing on your head and go around there at 50 miles an hour if you're the 33rd guy and then it rains. And we still have showers in the forecast and one spot open. Everyone is watching the sky, watching the weather, wondering how long they'll get to run today, and waiting, trying to be the last guy to go out and nail down that 33rd spot. It's exciting drama. Tom Sneva is playing the game. He's played it before. He's an expert at it, and he can drive one of these things one-handed. Let's go down and hear from Marty Reed.
Guys, remember we talk about the dollars involved in these cars worth hundreds of thousands? Well, take a look at this. This is the throttle linkage. Both ends should look like this. Unfortunately, this end is sheared off. Now, Mr. Sneva, if you'd stop pushing your foot so hard in the pedal, this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, the only good news is it'll fit in smaller orifices easier this way. And you look up and down the pit lane, and there's some tiny orifices right now.
Now, you know, obviously we're having some fun right now. You've been through this process before, but I know inside you still got a lot of butterflies going.
Oh, yeah, it's, you know, you don't want to be here on the last day of qualifying waiting for it to rain and still not in the show. It's tough for all these guys, but, you know, that's a situation you got to deal with, and, you know, you do the best you can.
Well, I'm going to give this back to you so you can keep it, because this is not...
I do a lot of things with this later.
Yeah, this is not a joking matter, because if it would rain right now and no more qualifying, he may not make the show, all for a $2 part. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, the skies have darkened to the west of us, and suddenly begins the panic here on pit road. Some of the teams are yelling, let's get in line. One of those, Norm Turley's team with Ted Prappis. And Ted, a lot of concern here now with the darkening to the west.
Yeah, I mean, there's 32 cars in there. I guess if you can get in there and have it rain, then you're pretty much locked in. So we're going to see. We just ran out and did a couple of mid-214 or 218, so nobody else seems to be going really quite that quick yet. So we're going to just kind of stick it in the qualifying line here and maybe go get an attempt. We got 2 left, so if we can get somewhere in the mid-219s or high 219s, I think we'll even be happy with that right now.
What happened yesterday? We saw you pull over. The green came out. Was there miscommunication?
Yeah, really, the car got loose on me in one, and I didn't know really if it was the tires just not being up to temperature because we had changed the setup. So I went through 3, and then I tried to radio them coming around 4 that I didn't want the green to tell them no, but they didn't hear that, and they kind of did. We just kind of got crossed up on our signal. So it cost us 1 attempt, but I mean, we got 2 left. If we can't do it in time, you know, we're not going to do it anyway. So 2 ought to be enough.
Ted Prappis hoping to get 4 laps and then pray for rain.
The skies darken. It has rained just north of here within the last couple of hours. If the field is full and it rains, that 33rd qualifier is secure. It is Bubble Day at Indianapolis. Meteorological drama being played out along with high speeds. We'll be right back.
Speedway, I'm Marty Reed down here in pit lane. Behind me is a troubled Mark Dismore. The pressure cooker is increasing in intensity. 8 laps, he's up to 215. But guys, take a look. They are working in the motor compartment behind me. He has got an oil leak problem. They think it's minor, and they put their fingers crossed like this. Talk about tension.
Our check of the weather map indicates on radar nothing just west of the speedway, showers to the south of the racetrack that are expected to miss the racetrack. But it is, as someone said earlier, it is May in Indiana, and it can rain in very short order. If it rains, it'll wash out.
Sorry, Dave. It'll be good to keep an eye on Dismore because 8 laps and he did a 2:15. He's been here all month and did 2:16 in his other car. So Dismore is obviously a lot more comfortable in this car. He might get this thing up to speed and be able to put it in line and qualify it.
Let's hope that that is indeed a minor repair that he will need here. Gary Bettenhausen out practicing today. This is a live picture of Gary. We talked about Ford versus Chevy, but Buick stole the headlines. And let's pick up that story with Gary Bettenhausen as he qualified in the middle of row 1. The Menard team, I think what may be the most interesting story of the month of May is the relationship that developed, I should say the middle of row 2 for Bettenhausen, the relationship that developed between this old hard-nosed, spit-in-your-eye American Indy veteran and the, some would have said, effete Nelson Piquet, who came here from the Formula One wars. Those guys really hit it off.
It really was quite remarkable. I mean, Gary Bettenhausen racing on the dirt, rolls his sleeves up, gets his welding torch out, builds his own cars, goes down, has a beer, smokes a cigarette. Nelson Piquet sits on a $6 million yacht in the harbor in Monte Carlo, uses his helicopter to fly to the airport to get into his Citation jet to take off and fly to a Grand Prix. I mean, I'm not sure we've ever had two teammates from the opposite ends of the racing world as we had with PK and Gary Bettenhausen. And the great thing is, PK came here looking to Gary almost as a father figure, and it really worked out well. He was the excellent student, and unfortunately, PK's month of May stopped very abruptly with that terrible crash earlier in the month.
Well, they were truly the odd couple, and Gary gained great respect for PK, as did we all. Unfortunately, his slam into the wall cost him the use of his feet. Bettenhausen at 2:28, 9:32, and here's what he had to say after the 5th fastest run of the month.
New single lap record on the day that it counts, just a tick off of getting the pole, but you still got to be high as a kite.
Yeah, we're happy because that's the 4 fastest laps that we've turned all month. You know, when it came time to do it, we put a little more front wing in the car because we saw all the other cars slowing down, and I knew they were pushing the front end, so we went for it, and we just got lucky. But the only thing that happened is on the second lap, the pop-off valve blew open, and I had to turn the boost down and lift on the throttle a little bit to get the valve to close, and I think that made the difference. In fact, I know it did.
Is that all those years of experience, knowing when to put the wing in, when to take it out? Because everybody else slowed down 4 miles an hour.
Right. It's just a matter of, you know, being here so many years. And, I mean, every year it's the same thing every year. The guys go out and they set the race car for a perfect track in the morning, and then everything, you know, it gets hot, and the front end starts pushing, and you got to gamble a little bit around here.
Front row for Gary B. Looks like it's going to hold up, too.
Well, I don't know. There's tomorrow yet, and there's Guerrero and Crawford, and they've run faster than that in the heat, so they can do it. And Michael and Mario are there, too.
Of course, it did not hold up for front row. It's the middle of row 2 for Gary. His career reborn here a year ago with this Menard Buick team, and this is the live shot as they focus now on what they really came for, and that is the race next Sunday. The sons of Tony Bettenhausen, an Indy legend, very different ends of the spectrum, as Tony Jr. will still try to qualify today.
I just don't know.
At Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the final day of qualifying for the 76 500, the final hour of qualifying will be live here on ESPN as we return to this speedway at the end of the day to see how it all shakes down. The weatherman continues to cooperate, allowing continued running on the track, which is now open for practice. If anyone makes a qualifying attempt, they pull up into tech inspection, the track closes down, and they are sent out on a 2-minute and 40-second run that could put them into the 76th running of the big race. 32 drivers are in. Row 11 right now consists of Dominic Dobson and Kenji Momota. And that 33rd spot outside row 11 is sitting there just waiting for someone to take it. But they are indeed waiting, Derek, and the reasons that they wait vary tremendously among the 12 or 13 drivers we expected to take a shot. Gary Bettenhausen has been out shaking down his Menard team Buick, and that team intends to use some new technology. We know that the Buicks have tremendous speed. We see it in Guerrero's pole run of 2:32.4. Question about those cars has always been reliability. They get 10 more inches of turbocharger boost that makes them fast here. There's a brother confab, Gary on the left, Tony on the right. I agree with you. I think Tony looks shell-shocked. To finish the Buick story, they have unproven reliability. Speed is one thing, to go 500 miles is another thing. I wonder if you think that they can run 500 miles with the development work they've done in terms of reliability for this year.
Well, you know, statistically, sometimes, or usually, it comes around in your favor. They've been here so many times and been unsuccessful. Perhaps this is the year that the Buick, in fact, will be reliable. The only problem is they've spent all these years trying to make this engine reliable at a speed of 215 miles an hour. That was all you needed. Now suddenly they need to go 220 or 22 or 23 in the race. So not only have they worked on reliability at a certain level, the level keeps rising. That's why it gets increasingly more difficult each year to keep up with this reliability factor.
Roberto Guerrero says because that engine is so fine-tuned, remember it's a push rod motor, it's not a dual overhead cam engine like the new Ford and the new Chevy. Roberto Guerrero says that motor is so touchy that he has a 200 RPM range to get in and out of the pits. Can that be true?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd say maybe 200 at his best run out on the racetrack is probably what he scrubs off in the corners. But one of the things about the Buick in race trim, one of its disadvantages is when you come off the power to get by somebody, when you get back on again, it doesn't pick up the speed as fast as a 4-cam Chevrolet. Also, another point we should probably make, now this is looking further down the road to race day, yellow flag situations are a disaster for the Buick because the Chevrolet can run at very low revs and use very little fuel, whereas the Buick, you have to keep it up in the rev range even under yellow flag situations. So it is to their disadvantage the more yellows there are in the race.
We began to make the point that Jim Wright, who does the Buick development program, has done some work with John Menard's money to make some changes in the fuel system. They have something called a 7th butterfly in that system to control the airflow in the engine management system to try to make the power band a little broader and perhaps to deal with that fuel consumption problem that could be a huge enemy for them on race day. I think there are a lot of people pulling for the old stock block motor just because they'd like to see that American technology come through and win the thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in qualifying, when Guerrero ran down here, the Buick sounds so much different to everything else. I mean, people just cheer for the Buick because it's the old American, the stock block, which is, you know, the history really engine of racing for so many years.
We're going to get an update, I believe, on Gary Bettenhausen's situation. He is perhaps, I'm sorry, on Tony Bettenhausen's situation. Gary is in the show, middle of row 2. Tony is still struggling. Let's see if we can find out more from trackside.
Is that better? I'm standing with Tony Bettenhausen, who has had a pretty rough week here. And if you don't believe the kind of week he's had has been tough, take a look at what happened last Sunday morning, about 10:30 a.m. on the racetrack. And Tony's, we're watching what happened. What happened to the race car?
Well, we lost a seal in the side case of the transmission, and when the car loaded itself on the right side in turn 3, the transmission fluid was forced up the right side of the box and out the open seal and onto the right rear tire. And really, something like that happens, doesn't give you much notice.
You wasted a 91, Penske, but you're okay?
I'm fine. Most of the stiffness is gone, and you know, we're just trying to get the backup car up to speed, and it's been finicky. I think we're close, but when you only got 2 attempts left, you want to be sure it's right.
It's got to be good. We saw the brother confab a minute ago. You and Gary sitting here talking. Got to be reassuring to know that whenever there's a problem with one of you two, you get some input from the other.
Yeah, Gary's been very supportive today, and you know, he's been trying to give us some ideas on what we might be able to do to bring the car around, and you know, it certainly doesn't hurt because he's one of the fastest guys in the race, obviously, but you know, we're still plugging away. If we can keep the rain off of us, we still got a few more hours yet.
Tony Bettenhausen watches and waits. A 10-time Indy veteran, finished 9th a year ago, hoping to make his 11th start this year. Guys?
Something that you didn't see in that crash for Tony Bettenhausen, that virtually cut the front off that car, and Tony Bettenhausen was actually wearing carbon fiber and Kevlar leg braces around his lower extremities, and it hit it so hard that it actually put a huge dent in that. So Tony could have actually broken his on that sideways impact. It was a very, very hard hit.
That is a new safety innovation that we have seen this year that the Bettenhausens have helped to pioneer, and obviously it worked very effectively. You heard Tony say it right there. We have a few hours left, and yet, as we made the point at the top of the show, the hours turn to minutes, and then the minutes to seconds, and ultimately today time will run out on the likes of Tom Sneva and the rest as they try to qualify for the 500. The heat of the day here on Bubble Day, final day of qualifying for the Indy 500. Track temperatures up, speed difficult to find right now. The Bettenhausen, no, that's not the Bettenhausens. That's Gary talking with Tom Sneva, now his teammate. A couple of longtime Indy campaigners here as Gary tries to get Tony. One more time, as Gary tries to help Tom Sneva get into the show. He should be charging a consulting fee by the hour here as he goes back and forth between his teammate Sneva and his brother Tony. These are the new days of IndyCar racing. Cars have a life of a year, perhaps 2. Driver swapping is more difficult than it used to be. In the old days of the Roadsters, it was a much different era, and the old days still live in the garage of a legendary A.J. Watson.
30 years ago, the race car to have at the Brickyard was the Watson Roadster. In fact, that chassis won 8 Indy 500s with drivers like Flaherty and Schweikert. Ward won twice. Parnelli Jones, A.J. Foyt, and Jim Rathman. In fact, a visit to A.J. Watson's shop just down the road from the Brickyard is like walking through a museum. Let's have a look. Hanging from the I-beam, the first rear engine car ever built by Watson back in 1964. It was powered by an Offie driven by Don Branson. On the far wall, another rear engine car built in 1968. It was campaigned for like 4 or 5 years at the Brickyard, was driven by Mike Mosley. And also a 1970 era dirt car. It's been driven by everybody. But there's one car that's missing. The car that Roger Ward won with back in 1959. It was sold from this shop about 3 years ago. And talk about inflation, 30 years ago you could buy a Watson Offie for about $17,000. Ward's Victor was sold for over $200,000. Yeah, how things have changed. These cars today, you drive them for 1 year, 2 years, they become a museum item or a boat anchor. Back in the old Roadster days, drive those things 3, 4, 5 years. Old Calhoun that won the race in '63 with Parnelli actually ran in 5 races. Oh, those were the good old days. The engines were in front, no ground effects, no turbulence coming off the rear. Any chance of going back about 30 years?
Gary, thank heaven we old race announcers can hang around year after year, huh, Daly?
That's right. The cars certainly won't go back. Maybe the announcers can go back to the old ways of doing it. I mean, we didn't wear ties. I mean, I don't know, you know.
$200,000 for Ward's former winner. If I were going to write a check to put to order a new Lola, I call the factory and I want a brand new Lola. How much are they going to charge?
And you can do that. I mean, you can call Lola on the phone and buy it. To come here, you'll spend maybe $470,000 for a Lola chassis. Now, you don't have any engines at that stage.
$470,000 for the rolling stock.
Just for the rolling chassis. Now, there's no point going with one because it's too big an investment to come here and have a problem. So you got to have 2. So that's suddenly a major investment. Then you got to put engines into it. I believe Vince Granatelli told me he was trying to do a deal to put Al Unser Sr. into one of his cars here, and for 3 Chevrolet engines for the year, for the month of May, there was a bill going to come to him for $250,000, and Vince thought that was excessive, and he declined the offer.
So you're talking about $700,000 to come here with bare minimum kit to race this race. And I think the operative thing in what you just said is doing a deal. Doing IndyCar racing has become a matter of doing the deal. The man who nearly did the whole deal is Jim Crawford. He came here the fastest man all month. Fastest in testing, fastest through practice, fastest right up to the moment when it mattered most, pole day, when the engine blew. Let's get the story of the fastest man at Indy from Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, right now, Jim Crawford sitting on the pit wall beside me. And, you know, we talked about people praying for rain. He wanted to get 4 laps and ahead of rain. This guy's praying for sunshine. You see his sunglasses on and the big smile from Jim Crawford. Now, Jim, why are you praying that the sun stays out?
I'd like to see a little bit of bumping done. With any luck, it could get me up a row.
You're inside of row 8, and there are 3 guys in row 7 who are all in the 219 range.
That's right. If I can move up there and then maybe Scott Goodyear switches cars, I could end up row 6. I don't know.
But you're in pretty good company back there in row 8 with Al Unser Sr. and A.J. Foyt.
Yeah, between us, we've won it 8 times, so I think we're looking good.
Jim Crawford inside of row 8. Yes, he and Foyt and Unser, among them, have won it 8 times. Let's go back upstairs.
I like that a lot. They've criticized Crawford a little bit as a man of few words this month, but if you can make them count like that, you'll have a long career. It is a fascinating row with Unser and Foyt sitting there side by side. But isn't it interesting that Crawford is looking at this from that perspective of all that bumping and the possibility? I mean, does it make that much difference to start in row 6 or row 7? Obviously, to him it does.
Well, it must do. I'm surprised that it does. I mean, I thought Jim would be up at the hotel sitting up by the swimming pool, but actually, yeah, exactly. He's as anxious to see what happens here on Bubble Day as anybody is. So, you know, maybe he's just a big race fan, too.
Between us, Derek Daly and I have had spectacular racing careers. We're going to continue our coverage here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is Bubble Day. Crawford looking on with interest, as are the rest of us. Those are Jim's Tag Heuer trap speed numbers for the month. We'll be right back.
He's stock car racing's.
That little pitch there, he was hoping that Milligan.
He will radio to USAC, who will shut the track down. They literally send as many people as they have around onto the racetrack trying to find whatever it is, because if it was a piece of metal or something sharp, it could cut a tire so easily and cause disastrous consequences. Here we see one of the workers out just looking to see is there any parts of cars, no matter how small they may be, that they actually need to pick up.
We can see they're out checking the racetrack as the Cadillac paces the track for the moment. Last time the pace car was in '73. Here's a report on the history of the car at Indy.
When Bobby Unser leads the field down for the start of the Indianapolis 500 this year, it will mark the first time a Cadillac has paced the race since 1973, and it'll be only the third time total. Well, actually, the Cadillac family paced on 3 other occasions because LaSalle, referred to by some as Cadillac's little brother, paced the race as early as 1927. 4 years later, in 1931, a Cadillac proper brought the field down for the start, and in 1934, LaSalle was back again. Their third and final time came in 1937 for the 25th running of the 500, and the great 1915 winner Ralph De Palma was its driver. Almost 4 complete decades passed by before Cadillac returned in 1973 with the luxurious Eldorado. Another former winner, Jim Rathman, performed the driving honors. But there had been one other Cadillac at the Speedway in the meantime, and this one was in a race car. Detroit hot rodder Cal Connell showed up in 1953 with this effort, powered by a 273 cubic inch Cadillac engine. It didn't make it, though. It arrived late, burned a piston in practice, and never had a chance to qualify.
Thank you very much, Donald Davidson, track historian. The Alante will be out front when the green flag falls next Sunday here at Indianapolis for the 76th 500. Gordy Johncock trying to cool down here after a practice run. Heat and humidity, the story for the moment. The worst possible conditions in which to race, but better than with rain. Groff is still in Johnny Rutherford's car, still looking for a bit of speed. We were all saddened by the death of Jovi Marcello here at this speedway earlier this week, and by the incident that injured Nelson Piquet. We'll talk about that and perhaps the influence of the yellow when we come back. Indianapolis Motor Speed. You know that Piquet, the 3-time world champion, came here and was so impressive in getting quickly up to speed. But then the bad crash and the injury. The only man who knows for sure what happened is Nelson Piquet, and he doesn't remember. And that leaves us free to theorize. And you have a theory about that.
Well, that's right. He doesn't remember. In fact, he doesn't even remember the day. But we know he came here working nice and slowly up to speed under the guidance of Gary Bettenhausen. When he got to the 228-mile-an-hour range, he really believed that 230 was in the car, no problem. Then he began to get frustrated by this yellow light situation. Remember now, he comes from Formula One, which is pressure-packed, heavy, go, 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 do as much running as you can in as short a time as you can. And he comes here to a situation that is totally the opposite, a hurry up and wait situation. And he was frustrated by this yellow flag situation that kept coming up and stopping him, he believed, actually making these 230-mile-an-hour runs. Well, the feeling is now that the frustration of the yellow light did get to him. The feeling is that coming off turn 4, and we can watch it very slowly, he actually saw the yellow light, came out of the power and turned down below the line as we see here to head into the pit lane. But by coming off the power at the critical time, it upsets the car right about here, and then it's all over. And I discussed it with him while he was in the hospital, and he seems to think that, yes, the frustration of what happened could have been a major contributing factor to the crash and to the severe injuries, which for all intents and purposes, I think, has ended Nelson Piquet's career as a driver.
There was speculation that he might be planning a return to Formula One with Ferrari, but that is a moot point now because the issue for Nelson Piquet is the long recovery. Have you heard his plans in terms of staying in Indianapolis? There's talk that he really needs to stay here with Dr. Terry Trammell and do the therapy that unfortunately is so common for these IndyCar drivers. Do you think he'll do that?
He said to me, a couple of months, I'll be out of here, back to Brazil, start my therapy. I had dinner with his wife a couple of nights ago. She believes, and in fact his manager is here from Monte Carlo. He flew in after the accident. They believe that he will be here 6 months, maybe even 8 months, whatever it takes for him to go through the type of therapy that his manager and his wife believes is here in Indianapolis. They believe this is the best care he can receive, so they don't really care how long it takes. The key factor is to get him back to a healthy condition as soon as possible.
As we have seen so often, indeed, with this gentleman right here and many more, the competitive spirit that brings you to that point of injury likewise is your best ally in trying to come back with injury. We wish the best for Nelson Piquet. His former comrades in action today. Nigel Mansell sets a record by winning his 5th Grand Prix in a row at the start of the season. He has won in San Marino over his teammate Ricardo Patrese. Back with more from Indy after this. 6 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock local time for the last hour. Memorable moments of 92. Rick Mears slams the wall and then 48 hours climbs back in a car to qualify for the Indy 500. It has been a memorable month indeed. The ride swapping continues. Has a deal been struck on pit road? Let's get the update from Marty Reed.
Johnny Parsons, they're changing a motor in his primary car back in the paddock, and you are standing here talking to the Concept Motorsports people. You trying to make them backup plan here?
Well, not at this point in time. We're just talking about, you know, what might come down later on at the last hour. The RCRO guys for the Team Losi car really working good. Dennis McCormick's the manager, and the guys have worked hard, and they're back there changing an engine when it's still hot, you know, and they're desperate to get in a race like we all are. So we're going to come out when they get that engine changed and try and get her back up to speed.
This is 2 years in a row I've been with you when we've been negotiating on the air here. We'll keep you abreast on this when 5 o'clock rolls around Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. Let's go to Doc.
Well, the umbrella behind me tells it all, gentlemen. Ted Prappus's car being covered by a little bit of a shadow here. This umbrella, they are waiting for some, hopefully, shadows over the speedway. Ted Prappus, looking for his first Indy start, has boogied up pit road, as they put it here in the crew, to look at the weather radar to decide when and where he will make that final attempt to qualify here in this 91 Lola Chevrolet. Let's go to Gary Lee.
It's tough enough being a rookie at the Brickyard, especially when you're riding it out on the bubble. Right now, the slowest qualifier. We talked to him yesterday, but he still has a grin. Jimmy Vassar, we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, no, we don't. We're just sitting here.
You have a
waiting.
backup car.
Yeah, we do. It's sitting right here, and it's ready to go just in case we should get bumped.
You will not withdraw your other car and requalify. You'll wait to get bumped.
Yeah, you know, if we withdraw the other car and then something happens to this, now we're not in the race anymore. So we're going to wait until we get bumped. We've had the Codilux Lola up to over 221 today, so it's pretty obvious we can go the time, but we're just gonna have to wait and see.
That's all he can do is wait. Dave?
33 spots available. 32 cars are in. Johnny Rutherford, Gordon Johncock, Mark Dismore, Tony Bettenhausen, Didier Tays. Among the drivers still to qualify, Ted Prappus, Jeff Wood, Fabrizio Barbaza, Johnny Parsons, and Tom Sneva. Some have cars, some don't. Some have cars that are fast enough, some don't. Nobody wants to go out there until the conditions are right, but they're all worried about the weather. A 10-second prediction on what we'll see during happy hour.
Well, it's almost impossible to make a prediction. You couldn't pick a fast car and say he's going to qualify, because so much can happen during the run, because it's got 4 laps to go. But there we see a potential star of the future at the Indy 500 right under that umbrella.
It's all going to come down to happy hour, the final hour of the final day of qualifying for the 76th 500. You'll see it live on ESPN. For Gary Lee and Marty Reed, for Dr. Jerry Punch, I'm Dave Despain. Thank you very much to Derek Daly for expert analysis once again. We'll be back at 6 o'clock Eastern time to wrap it all up and find out who's going to make the greatest race in the world. 2 weeks ago yesterday, opening day at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Dick Simon's 4-car team honored the moment. The search for speed begins in earnest. For 15 days they've run, but inevitably days shrink to hours and then hours to minutes. The pressure builds. The countdown to qualify runs out. Pole day, Roberto Guerrero found record speed, but now it's bubble day. Last chance to qualify. Years ago, Bubble Day might find Jim Hurtubise trying to put a front-engine roadster into a rear-engine field. Or A.J. Foyt lending his old pal Ziggy Snyder a backup car to try and make the show. More recently, big names and past champions have sought to make the Bubble Day cut. Johnny Rutherford, successful in '85. In 1986, the Bettenhausen celebrated. Gary sneaked through a window between the showers, one of only 2 last day qualifiers. In '89, Rutherford again, a blown motor in a Foyt backup car, foiled his attempt to bump back into the field. The gun to end qualifying was a shot in the heart, a mortal wound to JR's dream of win number 4. But for every broken Bubble Day dream, there is that offsetting moment of joy. With the crack of that gun, Bernard Jourdain was safely in the field. Conflicting emotions, the joy of Saltwater's crew in 1990. The veteran bumped a rookie. Read the pain in the eyes of Jeff Andretti. 1 year ago today, Willie T. Ribbs rode to Bubble Day glory, and the aspirations of Black America rode with him. Willie broke the 75-year-old color barrier at Indy. Today, Speedway legends and aspiring rookies alike are watching the clock, reaching for the dream to race the Indy 500. ESPN returning live to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The countdown indeed is into the final hour. Bubble Day, the final day of qualifying for the Indy 500. I'm Dave Despain with Derek Daly. The crowds are here, anticipating what we have waited for all day long, filling the field for the 500. About 3 o'clock this afternoon, something like an hour after we left the air with our last report, Tom Sneva took to the track. Remember the threatening weather conditions, the possibility of rain. Sneva felt the time was now. Rolled the dice, put the car on the racetrack.
And very well. If anybody can manhandle one of these cars around this place, it is Tom Sneva. He is brave, he is very good, he's very talented, and he's very experienced here, which is one of the reasons why John Menard put him into this car. But Sneva, I believe this was his second attempt, and I believe he thought it was going to be his last. We saw him run very close to the walls, but he was ultimately successful.
He had been sneaking up on the speed. We should make the point that he had very, very little time in the car. This was one of those last-minute marriages of convenience. An available driver, a car without a pilot. The appropriate amount of money perhaps changing hands and perhaps not, but in any case, resting on the outcome. $110,000 or $11,000 to the man who starts dead last in this field. And thus, Sneva went out to graze the walls and to qualify, filling the field and taking that 33rd starting spot.
Rocky Moran, in fact, was John Menard's first choice for this car. However, whoa, look how close Sneva gets to the wall there. However, Rocky Moran, believe it or not, is physically too big to get into these new Lolas. They are so small. Hence, we see Sneva with an average speed of 219.737. Look how he got progressively faster every lap. We spoke to Tom afterwards.
According to the guys watching the tape, I'm not privileged, but they say you came mighty close to that wall in turn 4 on the last lap.
Well, the car was starting to get a little bit loose, and the wind was gusting just a little bit, but you know, I thought I sort of had it under control, and I knew all I had to do was get the start-finish line, so, you know, no matter what happened, I thought we could get her done.
I sort of had it under control.
That's about it. You just never know, you know, we're sort of waiting for the weather to get a little bit better. You know, I thought the car could make it in under any weather conditions today, and you know, it all worked out fine.
There are 4 cars slower than you. Is that going to hold up? I mean, last year you got bumped out.
Yeah, it is, and it's probably why we didn't take anything yesterday, but we'll just have to wait and see. If it stays cool enough without raining, it's going to help some of these guys, but I think we'll be all right.
Look what happened immediately after Sneva's run. The temperature plunged, the wind kicked up, the black clouds were everywhere. We knew it was going to rain, and that Sneva had performed a strategic masterpiece, taking the last qualifying spot just before the showers moved in. Well, surprise, it was the shower that didn't show. The wind blew all kinds of debris around the racetrack. There was a yellow for a while, but then, lo and behold, green conditions, and Gordon Johncock went out to begin that process unique to Indy. At 3:52 p.m., he went out and tried to bump Jimmy Vasser from the field. Johncock, who has a fair bit of experience with this bump day exercise, looking for a speed of some 219 miles per hour.
And talk about a team and a driver rising to the occasion just at the right time. Johncock has spent all this month hovering around the 215, 216 mile an hour range, and really looked to be very much of a struggle to get this car to go fast enough. On the last day here, however, earlier today, slowly crept up into the 218 range and then began to feel confident. Gordy at all times said he believed he had a mile or two an hour in hand that he could produce on qualifying in a qualifying run. That is exactly what he did. A very good run by John Cock.
John Cock still has some concerns about race day beyond just qualifying, but to worry about the race, you must first get into the race. And so John Cock, who won undoubtedly the most exciting race here at Indy in terms of a finish when he beat Rick Mears by 2 car lengths at the line, and who last year came from dead last to finish 6th in this race, did what professional race drivers are expected to do. He rose to the occasion. He took the checkered flag. He bumped Jimmy Vasser from the field and qualified 33rd with a speed of 219.288 miles per hour.
And it is a Lola Buick, and we believe that it's actually his 7th engine of the month of May here. So it's been a bit of a struggle here for John Cock, but see his laps here again, progressively faster, lap after lap. Let's go to Gordon John Cock.
Gordy, 7 motors you guys have gone through, hours of work, the continual search for speed. This is a lot of fun, isn't it?
No, I'm going to have to tell the truth. It surely hasn't been fun this month.
The difference here in the last couple of hours, what has it been for you? Because you guys were struggling to find that 219 mark.
Well, we just couldn't. Well, it was hot, you know, 2 or 3 hours ago. It was pretty hot, and you really weren't learning very much out there. And we had a hard time getting a set of tires that would match the car that would feel comfortable to me. And this last set that we put on out of all of them really felt a lot more comfortable than any of the other tires that felt to me. But our car is really one of a kind here. It's a 91 Lola, and it was made for the Alfa Romero, and they had to do some work under the tunnels underneath the car to get it switched over for the Buick. And we've just been searching for downforce on the car to get a good hold of the racetrack. If it had stayed hot this afternoon, we never would have made it, because you know, we had to have a cool track to run on.
10 years ago, you were the champion here. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since then. And realistically, what are you looking for come race day now?
Just to hang in there. You know, we're not going to get much running time left. The car really doesn't work good at all with a full load of fuel. The least amount of fuel, the better the car worked. If we were to go out there with a full load of fuel, we would have been 4 or 5 mile an hour slower. So, and then in traffic, I got with Bobby Rahal once today, and it's not good at all, you know. And the worst thing is we don't get no time to work on that. Like if we'd have got qualified the first weekend, carburation day, you get a couple hours, but you don't get no time to work on that. So it's not going to be good in a race.
Well, as we said, first you got to get in the race. He can worry about the race setup later. Hello, everyone. Dave Despain with Derek Daly. Welcome back to Indianapolis. Welcome to Bubble Day. They're telling me that I should tell you what happened next with Gordon John Cock and Jimmy Vasser, and I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll make them wait for that surprise. We're going to update the process, but it isn't over yet. Bubble Day continues.
Oh, it is not over yet. We have seen so much excitement in the last hour many times in the past here, and we have very, very good conditions here. We have at least 3 cars that we believe can go above 219 miles an hour. So we will bring you the live action as soon as any of those cars hits the racetrack.
And let me just update that. We've just been told that Johnny Rutherford had gone into and then back out of Tech, and he tops the list of those still to qualify. Mark Dismore, the rookie, Tony Bettenhausen, who struggled today, Taze, who has just moved into Tech, Ted Prappus, Johnny Parsons, and Jeff Wood, all potential qualifiers here today, although several of those drivers have been off the pace and do not have the speed that it will take to get back into the show. Gordon John Cock is the 33rd qualifier. Here is the man many of us feel have the best shot at Scott Goodyear's current bubble time, 219.054. Goodyear is the man on the bubble. Following him would be John Cock, Andretti, Sneva, and Tracy. How will it all play out? Find out as we bring you the conclusion of Bubble Day at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, there haven't always been 33 starters for this race. 21 back in 1916, 42 in 33. We'll be back right after this. Speed Week call-in show from Indianapolis on May the 25th, an unusual Monday 1 p.m. program. Why would we do that? Because you'll get to talk to the Indy 500 winner. Look at the Unser family reunion. The year was 1987. Al Sr. brightened up the proceedings considerably on the second weekend of qualifying, got a ride, and went on to win the Indy 500. We're back at Indianapolis. That is the Motor Speedway, the museum that rests inside turn 2 of the Speedway, and this is live coverage of time trials here. Gordon Johncock claiming the 33rd qualifying spot, but the story does not end there. The driver on the bubble is Scott Goodyear, and we have word that Didier Tay's car has gone back into tech, a car we believe to be capable of reaching bubble speed of 219. For a report, we've already met him on tape. Let's hear from him live. We'll go trackside to one of our 3 pit reporters, Marty Reed.
Guys are just about ready to fire the engine. Didier Tay's just getting the gloves on. He has been given the instructions by Tom Binford, the chief steward, and you'll see here just momentarily they will be going out. Derek, you have been in this position. You can explain better than anybody what Didier Tay's is feeling right now.
Well, we've spoken about the pressure pack situation that we have here. There's something else that Didier Tay's brings here, a new sponsor. So now suddenly, not only is he trying to get in for himself and his career move, he's got corporate America, Kinko's, standing by saying, hey, we got involved in this. Let's see what's going to happen. So now it's a double pressure pack situation for Didier, because remember, when you bring new sponsors to the sport, you obviously want to perform well on that particular day. This has been a big break for Didier to bring Kinko's here, because that has allowed him and his career to take another step forward and get into a car as good as the one he's in right now.
We talked in the previous show about the fact that it's about an $800,000 package. You don't pay to not put it in the field. The man on the bubble, Scott Goodyear, 219.054. That is currently the slowest speed for a qualified driver. So obviously Scott Goodyear is under incredible pressure right now, right? Wrong.
Take a look at how much pressure this guy's under. Sitting here in his nice shorts and tenny pumps and a nice t-shirt, sunglasses, smiling. He's really under a lot of pressure, guys. But Scott, you're probably the most relaxed bubble driver I've ever seen. Why?
Well, I think our spare car is in the bubble right now, and I don't think anybody really expected to see the bubble around 219. I saw Jeff Andretti out here testing in a spare Foyt car today, and Paul Tracy in a spare Penske car, and I think the speeds have really upped a little bit that we thought would be on the bubble this second weekend. But for us, we elected to try and keep 2 cars in the field, and we had Mike Groff qualify our 92 car yesterday, and both cars have run well. The 91 car we saw 222s with quickly. The 92 car we saw 224s. Mike went out and did a superb job coming here in the one day, sitting in the car and running just shy of 222 qualifying. So that's the car I'm going to run in the race. We're actually going to do a change. What we were trying to do was enabling to have 2 McKenzie car in the field, and with that have Mike and myself change, and myself go to the 92 car, which is my primary car, and then Mike go ahead and drive the 91 car. Just by doing a driver change, we both would have had to start in the back row. But right now, like I said, I don't think we expected to see 219 a bubble, or probably either Foyt's team or Penske's team, because we're all sort of out here today, and it's sort of interesting to see all these people out here on bubble day just sort of watching the times increase as the temperature's getting better.
That's Scott Goodyear. Will there be 2 McKenzie cars in the field? Well, Didier Tay is trying to make sure there's only 1 in the field. He's on the track. But let's go up further pit road, where Gary Lee is standing by with Mark Dismore.
What a difference a day makes could be your theme song if you only had 1 more day to work with this, Mark.
Yeah, today's been pretty good thanks to Dave Mann. I mean, called me up and gave me a chance in this car, and we've had absolute minimum amount of laps, and he's got a good engineer named John Dick, and everything has come around, but we're still just a little short. But I mean, I'm going faster in 40 laps in this car than I went in 2 weeks in the car that I've been in. I just wished I'd have made the switch a long time ago.
He'd like to have a few more practice laps. He still needs about 3.5 miles an hour.
All right, Didier Tays is on the track. The shot is live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Tays has reached put up or shut up time. The countdown is at 0 for Didier, and a huge cloud of smoke just as he takes the green flag. And it appears that Didier Tays' hopes of making this 500 field are over spectacularly.
Not only appears, it is for sure. The day is done. There's his wife getting a hug. What an emotional time for her. Very difficult time. I'm sure she's in tears. They've done so much work to try and get Didier into this field. Remember, this was his third attempt, so no matter what they can do with this race car, he has no more attempts as he emerges from the oil smoke. That is a major engine blow-up. Now, he didn't get up to speed as quickly as they had hoped, so I know for a fact there was over 500 miles on this engine, so I'm sure they were hoping he could squeeze that last 4 laps and try and make this race. I'm afraid it's over for Didier Thays for this year.
The team is Jim Hall's team. Jim, one of the legends in American motorsports from his own car building days. You recall the Chaparrals, out of racing for a long time, now back in as an owner of an Indy car team. He has another car in the field with John Andretti, who's qualified well and solidly, but his second effort to put a second car in the field has gone up in a cloud of smoke. Let's go trackside to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Derek Walker, who never likes to see another competitor have problems. Really, Derek, you're able to manage a smile only because you know Didier probably would have done it.
Oh, most certainly. I think Didier was on a good run there. He's been gathering momentum all day, so it's a tough break for him, but obviously we'd like to get 2 of our cars in, and we're still trying to get a 3rd one in, so who knows.
Now you have the unenviable task now of working to get your 3rd car in to bump your 2nd car from the field.
Well, yeah, it's a strange situation. I'm just going to, we've been working on this car all day, so if it happens, it happens. That's be tough for Mike, but, that's the way it goes.
That's Derek Walker standing by for JR's run. Let's check up pit road with Marty Reed.
Well, we got David Rosowski, chief mechanic for the car. Obviously, you guys are just crushed. What happened?
We don't know yet. I mean, pretty apparent. I think we just had something engine turbocharge or something. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think for sure you'd put it in the show this time.
You guys were up over 219. How many miles did you have on the car?
We had quite a few on it. I mean, probably around 550.
Obviously about 5 miles too many.
Well, you can never tell on these things. I mean, it's just one of them deals. We just pushed it too far.
Thanks, Dave.
Tears. That sums it up here at Indianapolis. The day is over. Indeed, the month is over for Didier Thays. I think we owe you perhaps a bit more explanation on the rather Byzantine qualifying procedure that involves Goodyear, Groff, Rutherford, and car owner Derek Walker. If you were able to make sense out of all that from what has happened thus far, you're a better man than I. It is complicated, but we will explain to you more about how that all works and how a man can in fact bump himself. The first part of this to understand is that day 4 qualifiers all go in behind those who qualified in the first 3 days. So the best you can start is at the back of the line. The car is allowed 3 attempts. Thays just made his 3rd and blew the engine. When a car is bumped, that car comes out of the field, and all the qualified cars move up 1 position up through that driver. Now, the situation regarding Goodyear is this. Goodyear qualified a car, but then Mike Groff qualified the 2nd team car, and the plan all along was for Goodyear to switch, Goodyear to get into the car that Groff qualified. Remember, it is the car and not the driver that qualifies for the field. Well, now, ironically, Goodyear is on the bubble, but the man who's going to try to knock him out of the show is Johnny Rutherford. They're all 3 on the same team. It's complicated. We'll make sense out of it and see how it all pans out when we come back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Irishman Derek Daly bumped out of the field in 1985, bumping back in and finishing 12th. What is it that they call this day?
This is Bubble Day.
Bubble Day. Roberto Guerrero will start on the pole for the 500 next Sunday in the Buick, the stock block with Eddie Cheever alongside. That is the new Ford Cosworth XB. A similar power plant put Mario Andretti on the outside of the front row.
Another Ford car on the inside of row 2, Ari Lyondike, who was our first qualifier here last week. Gary Bettenhausen in the middle. Another Ford car on the outside with Michael Andretti.
We go to row number 3 as they will line up next week. Scott Brayton with another of the Buicks inside that row. Danny Sullivan is actually the fastest Chevy. The Penske men all have new Chevy engines. Danny has last year's style motor, and it was the fastest Chevy qualifier. Rick Mears, after a crash in practice, came back to put the Penske version of the Chevy outside the row.
Row 4, Bobby Rahal, who has over 2,000 miles of running here this month. Emerson Fittipaldi, Rick's teammate, in the middle, and then Al Unser Jr., always a threat on race day.
Inside row 5, we find Stan Fox, the veteran of the Midget Wars, who has done very, very well at Indy the last few years. John Andretti, as we said, safely in the field, and Eric Bachelard was the fastest rookie until today.
Philippe Gache is the inside of row 6, comes all the way from France. Scott Pruitt on the True Sports car, and then John Paul Jr. on the outside.
Starting in 19th spot is Paul Tracy, Penske's rookie, potentially bumped today, although that would be a long shot. Jeff Andretti is also potentially on the bubble today, as is Scott Goodyear, the man on the bubble right now.
Row 8, one of the stars of the month of May here, and it has been many times in the past. Jim Crawford, the Buick development driver. Al Unser Senior came here, filled in for Nelson Piquet, and then no introduction needed for A.J. Foyt.
In row 9, we find Buddy Lazier after a good qualifying run last week. Raul Boesel with a last-minute deal puts a Dick Simon car in the middle of the row, and Mike Groff may well not be in the 500, though right now he's outside row 9.
Row 10, Brian Bonner, a rookie, an excellent performance by him in a Lola Buick. Lynn St. James, she made history here by qualifying for the 500, and Jimmy Vasser.
And today we wrapped it up. Dominic Dobson with a good run, qualified inside row 11, and then the bumping began. Tom Sneva took the 33rd position in the show. Gordon Johncock made the first bump of the day as he replaced in that 33rd spot as he made the first bump of the day and took the 33rd starting position. Let's go trackside and update now from Marty Reed.
Well, guys, things could be breaking down here regarding Gordon Johncock's qualification attempt. Apparently, there may have been the same motor in 2 cars that qualified for this race. Here's how the saga allegedly goes. Buddy Lazier qualified with the motor at the Buick originally. They returned the motor to Buick. Buick then gives it to Dale Coyne. Coyne then sells it to Ron Hemmelgarn. Hemmelgarn installs it in Gordon Johncock's car. We talked to Tom Binford. You can see a number of members of the USAC committee. They have been going through the rule book. They are investigating it, and according to Tom Binford, that's all he'll say at this point, that they are looking into it. So we could have a couple of cars in some hot water.
There is a bubble day development that I don't think anybody had expected. Another wrinkle in the rules. Can't use the same motor in 2 cars.
And a bubble day problem that if it was an innocent mistake, please do not pull cars out of this race. There has been so much effort that has gone in with all these teams to get these cars qualified. Please investigate it. If it was a genuine mistake, I know a rule is a rule, but if it was a genuine mistake, perhaps we could look at a fine maybe.
And I wonder how many, I wonder how the paper trail of that engine works. I wonder how many of the components that were in the car when it qualified the first time are actually still part of that same motor. A little bit of rule minutiae here that could determine the 33rd starting spot. Johnny Rutherford out there still hoping to make one more Indy 500. Motor Speedway, the track is open for practice. When there is no qualifying attempt waiting in the wings, the officials then open the track and anyone may go out and practice. We're going to take a look at Jimmy Vasser's run. Jimmy was bumped from the field by Gordon Johncock. An excellent young rookie race driver, was not the least bit worried. He knew, I think, that he was going to get bumped today, and he also knew that he had this waiting in the wings.
Comes here with a road racing background, was very successful in the Toyota Atlantic Championship last year, and this is a very confident young driver. As he was about to get bumped, he was very casual about it, put his helmet on, went out, did a warm-up lap in the car, came back in and said, yes, I think it feels good, no problem. When they put it back in line, he went out. And it's amazing, as the afternoon went on, things got a little bit quiet here, but then Vasser put in his first lap, and it was above 222 miles an hour. Suddenly, the place erupted again. They watched every lap, and Jimmy Vasser will be remembered for a very good, strong performance under intense pressure.
The weather conditions were not bad. The wind was still blowing around a good bit, but look at the speeds, 222.4, the kinds of speeds that we talked about last weekend on Sunday. Vassar knew that he had that kind of potential in reserve in this car, so he was not terribly concerned about having been bumped out of the field. He felt comfortable that he could bump his way back in. I'm not sure any of us expected Vassar to bump back into the field faster than Eric Bachelard, who had been the fastest rookie. Indeed, Vassar became the fastest rookie in the field. The time was, the speed was 222.313. Great consistency, spectacular run. And here's what Jimmy Vassar had to say when it was over.
Well, in a period of 6 minutes, you were in the show, out of the show, and back in the show.
Yeah, well, we knew we could do the time with our T-car. We've been running good all week long, and we just couldn't take a car out of the race that was already in the race. It wasn't real ethical, so we had to wait till we got bumped out before we got back in.
Proves to be probably about $25,000 to the good for you also, because that speed will almost probably hold up for sure.
Well, that's good. You know, we can always use the money. We got a new sponsor in Codalux and Vital Care Shampoo, but we're still looking for more sponsors, and the money really helps.
Would you ever want to go through this again that way?
No, not really. I've lived it now. I can tell stories about it in the future, and I don't want that on anybody else either. It's a pretty nerve-wracking time.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And so a youngster that many people think has a bright IndyCar future has his Bubble Day war story to tell.
He has indeed. His owner is Jim Hayhoe, who was in fact a car owner from years past and was very successful then. They do not have a full program together yet for the year, but let's hope that Jimmy Vassar can race every race, because he is definitely a new young talent.
He bumped Kenji Momota from the field. Might Kenji get back after the John Cock rule infraction? We'll find out when we come back. The man on the bubble at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, final day of qualifying for the 76th 500 is Scott Goodyear, the slowest speed, 219.054. And again, his team car has been qualified at 221.8 by Mike Groff. And so the way the rules work, Groff can simply climb out of the car, Goodyear climbs in, move the car to the back of the grid, and that was the plan all along for that team. Now, for more on what's happening with Mark Dismore, who had that big crash last year, has come back and struggled, and now is in a Dave Mann-owned backup car. Let's go trackside to Gary Lee.
He's a darn good race driver, but he's not a magician, and the car owner is Dave Mann. You want him to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and he says just maybe he can do it.
Yeah, well, we're hoping so. He's only been in the car about 2 hours this afternoon. He went from a 206 up to a 217. And it needs about a 219.3 to make the show, but we're running out of time. There's only about 30 minutes left. We hope he can pull it out of his hat.
You made an observation. You said, I don't know if this car will go through tech. We haven't teched it in a week.
That's true. We teched it last Friday for qualifications. Last Saturday, we ended up not needing it, and we haven't teched it until just a moment ago. Since then, we had a problem. The deflection test was not able to be performed on the left side pod because the hole wasn't there for them to stick the device through.
So now you have to drill a hole and run it back through tech?
Simply drill a hole so they can hang the deflector test device on there, and hopefully we'll go up and try to run 219 plus.
But Derek and Dave, that will cost them more time.
There is the car. The driver would be Dismore. The speed is 219.054.
We know this car has been above 220 miles an hour because in the first week, John Paul actually took this car out, and I believe he did 221 miles an hour. The deflection test that he's talking about, the side pods and the tunnels on these cars, you have to have them rigidly mounted. So what USAC does is they hang a 50-pound weight off each corner, and they only allow you a tiny bit of movement. The hole was not there to actually hook that on. That's what's going to cost them this precious time.
And indeed, the clock is running. We are moving closer and closer to 6 o'clock. The field is full, so whatever happens, it ends at 6 o'clock. That is the countdown we're facing. Let us consider for just a moment, as Tony Bettenhausen moves into tech, the emotional roller coaster that Mike Groff is riding. We mentioned that if Goodyear gets bumped, then he takes Groff's car. There's another car for that team, and that is the car that Johnny Rutherford is trying to get up to speed. Derek Walker is talking with Groff right now. In our previous show, Rutherford said, I can't get the car up to speed. We're going to put Mike in it and see what he can find. He found over 2 miles an hour. Groff may be the guy who gets Rutherford in, but he still won't have a ride.
And this is unbelievable. I mean, Groff came here without a ride. He's already in the race. He may lose that. He may get in the race a second time, and he may lose that one too. I'm not sure that's ever happened here before.
Do we have an update on that perhaps from Dr. Jerry Punch? Let's go trackside, see what Jerry's got here as Bubble Day winds on.
We caught up with Mike Groff, who you saw just moments ago talking with Derek Walker. And Mike, the question is, you're not on the bubble, but then again, you are on the bubble. If Scott gets bumped, Scott will get in the car. You qualified so well earlier, and then you're without a ride. Would you be available to qualify another car?
Well, I would, and I'd love to do it, but unfortunately, you know, here we are Sunday, the final day of qualifying, and we have about 20 minutes left, so, you know, that put us in a little bit of a difficult situation, and I knew going into it when I got together with Derek that it was more of a team player kind of thing, and I took a big chance, and, you know, it was a good opportunity for me, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed here, hoping that, that we don't get bumped.
Well, absolutely. Derek Walker has said Mike Groff is one of the best team players he's ever seen. He came out to help Johnny Rutherford, and he himself may not have a shot at running the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back with the final minutes of Bubble Day qualifying from Indianapolis after this. Stay with us.
We've got a bit of an edge with.
About 1 hour ago, a conversation between driver Tony Bettenhausen and Roger Penske. Tony owns a one-year-old Penske chassis with a Chevrolet. They were talking about suspension settings, trying to get the car a little closer to what Tony needed to qualify. Now, as we come back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we look at Tony B in the car, the youngest son of the late Tony Bettenhausen. Tony will go out for his third and final attempt. He said earlier, boy, it's tough to do it once. I don't like doing it 3 times, referring to his third attempt in this car. And Tony says, well, doesn't matter now. The time is now to do it. So he is strapped in the car, and he'll be the next to take his instructions from Chief Steward Tom Binford before he attempts to qualify. Dave?
Well, we talk about the search for speed, and it's important to understand that the search is unending. Tony Bettenhausen had found the speed, found plenty of speed to qualify, and then lost that speed.
He did indeed. A very rough, tough month for Tony Bettenhausen. He was over 221 miles an hour. After he spoke to Roger Penske, they actually took his car back to Penske's flat pad to go through the suspension settings. Tony said they were pretty close. They did change a couple of things, and now you can see he's on new tires, sticker tires. That's the maximum grip they can get, hopefully. But as we said earlier, this is his third and final attempt. He either does it now or Tony's not going to make it.
2 laps to warm it up, and Tony Bettenhausen will try to bump his way into the Indy 500. We'll have the run live when we come back. From Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the driver is Tony Bettenhausen. The family legacy here is incredible. His best speed of the month, 222. He had it, he lost it, he now searches for it again. He needs 219.054 to make the Indy 500.
And this is it, his only chance left. I bet his heart rate is ginormous right now. I bet he needs an adrenaline rush to drag this thing around the racetrack, because believe it or not, if Tony Bettenhausen didn't qualify here, he could be in trouble for the rest of the year, because sometimes these programs are a little bit shaky, and this is the biggest race in the world. This is where all the sponsors want to be represented, and Tony was very worried when things began to go downhill earlier today. Oh, Tony, it's a 2:15.1. He's in deep, deep trouble.
He will have to, it's virtually impossible from a 2:15 lap to raise the average to 2:19. Remember, it is a 4-lap average that puts you in the show. There's a familiar face.
Well, this is Gary Bettenhausen. Gary spent a lot of time down with Tony today, talking about the car, trying to come up with constructive changes, trying to get Tony of clear mind to go out and try and sort his car out. But Tony knows it's no good. In fact, he's pulled right off. Down on the apron, slowed down. It's over for Tony Bettenhausen. He will not be in next Sunday's race.
It's ironic that Tony's best Indy 500 ever was his first back in 1981. I think we may be able to get an update now from trackside. Tony Bettenhausen will not make it. Let's get an update from trackside.
Standing with Scott Goodyear. Scott, you've dodged another bullet as of yet. You, I guess the McKenzie team, maybe getting 2 cars in the field. Bettenhausen not up to speed. Any idea, as cool as it is, maybe you just had a problem?
I'm not really sure, but we certainly hope so, because we'd like to see Mike Groff get in the field with that car. And right now the conditions are perfect. I mean, the temperatures really dropped down. It's cool, and the sun's gone behind the clouds, and the winds dropped down. So I think that the conditions are right. So we've got a few more cars to go, and I hope that the 91 car stays there so Mike can drive it. And either way, I mean, I started the back of the field with a 92 in anyway, so it's I hope that we both start back there anyways, have 2 cars in the field.
That's Scott Goodyear, the man still on the bubble, as Tony B rolls slowly by us here on pit road.
Well, that looks more and more like the reality. Johnny Parsons is next in line, and Johnny's going to make what I think we would have to class as a desperation attempt here. Car is fired, headed for the racetrack. Another qualifying attempt to come. Bubble day, counting down towards 6 o'clock here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the picture is live. Driver is Johnny Parsons, and Johnny is definitely not blasting up to speed here. This car has a checkered history thus far, but I think there is a problem. Parsons is definitely not coming up to speed. Let's go trackside to Dr. Jerry Punch and a very disappointed Tony Bettenhausen.
Obviously, Tony B climbing out of his Amex car, and Tony, you gave it a gallant effort, but it just wasn't quite enough. You said you've had a push all week. Was that still a problem?
Well, it seemed like every time we get the push out of it, you know, the racetrack deteriorated from last week, and every time we get the push out, it'd get a twitch in it, and we just we were a little bit optimistic. I guess we'd run about 216 in the last practice, and we thought, well, with new tires and get this thing balanced, we made a wing adjustment, we could maybe go out and get the 3 mile an hour we needed, but I drove it that much harder, made the push that much worse. It just wouldn't even turn up in turn 3, but you know, there's other years.
Tony Bettenhausen able to manage a smile. Very emotional, choked with emotion as he got out of the car, and a very disappointed young man here at Indianapolis. Gentlemen.
Boy, I tell you, you can feel it, you can sense it. Tony Bettenhausen trying to carry on a great family tradition, but his brother will go it alone from the middle of row 2. Parsons continuing to struggle to get up to speed. I think before we get to Johnny's run, we ought to get an update on that motor situation with Gordon Johncock. It could be a very big issue, and who does and doesn't run the race. Gary Lee, you got something on that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we first talked to Mike Devon, who's the USAC tech director. He said it was his people that found perhaps the infraction. He said, well, you'll have to talk to Tom Binford, the chief steward. Tom said, I really don't want to talk about it until I have something to say. Obviously, his point right now is I need to get these guys through and attempt to qualify. So it may be, unfortunately, after we get off the air, or perhaps later this evening or tomorrow, before Tom can really sort through all this information.
I will give them credit, I think, for keeping focused on the priority, which is to give everybody who has a shot an opportunity to go out and run. Because if they that way they get their speeds dialed, they have record of who can do what, and then if in fact they have to make an administrative change and pull somebody out, they can just move everybody up, and that will be fair for one and all. Gordon Johncock has allegedly a motor that had already tried to qualify earlier. Johnny Parsons is on the racetrack, took a long time to get to speed, but now he is on his qualifying attempt, but the speed is not there.
The speed is not there. 211 miles an hour, almost 212, nowhere near fast enough to qualify. I'm not sure Johnny Parsons believed he could go fast enough. He was very, very slow on his warm-up lap. In fact, when he started his first hot lap, the stickers were still on the inside tires on the rear, so they were not up to operating temperature. So Johnny Parsons is going through the motions at the moment. Let's hope he gets off the racetrack as soon as possible and let somebody else have a legitimate chance, I can almost say it, of getting in this race.
Yeah, there's the yellow. Go back and say, what was that? What was that word? Mark Dismore may have a shot. Ted Prappus may have a shot. Johnny Rutherford may have a shot. All are long shots, but you make a good point. Let's get Parsons off the racetrack, and if those guys do have a chance to qualify, let's give them that chance. A sporting move for Parsons, who had nothing to gain by staying out there. We'll be back to see if anyone else can crack the Indy 500 lineup. The winner of the Indianapolis 500 on May the 25th, the day after the 500, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Remember 1969. Mario Andretti drove into victory lane. For his many years of trying, he's only made it one time. He will try the 27th attempt to win this big race on Sunday, the Indianapolis 500. It is Bubble Day. The picture is live. It is Bubble Day in Irish, and this would be a ginormous, that was the word we were looking for, a ginormous surprise and treat. If Mark Dismore can make this field, a lot of people are going to be very, very happy.
That's right. It will be a ginormous effort. You know, ginormous is an Irish blessing.
Yes, I knew that.
You did.
Dismore hit the fence a ton here last year, trying to work his way up to speed. He was horribly injured. He fought back, went through the long recuperation, came here again, determined, and yet I think with some trepidation. And when the car acted badly all week long, you could just see his confidence eroding, but now we see it coming back.
And he definitely has what we would call a spooky condition, where the car is so unstable you can feel it's about to do something violent and you daren't go over that limit. And then Dave Mann, a local businessman here, likes to come and run a car, and the team at the Indianapolis 500 came up with the offer of this car here, and Dismore is running faster than he's ever run all month. His first lap was 2:17. He moved the second lap up above 218 miles an hour, but it's not fast enough yet.
It takes 219.054 for a 4-lap average to make the race, and it's going to be very, very difficult for Dismore to achieve that. 2.5 minutes is all it takes. In 2.5 minutes, 20 people are born, 10.5 people die on average, 11.5 people are married, and for what it's worth, an average of $62,000 are spent on lottery tickets in that length of time. Mark Dismore will try, but apparently will fail to make the Indy 500.
John Paul just goes over, has a word with Donna Dismore, Mark's wife, discussing, well, there's nothing they can do at this moment, but no. Lap 3, the average is way down, 2:17.8. I'm afraid it's over for this year's Indy 500 for Mark Dismore, who has never yet started a race here, and it's been a dream of his since he was a young boy watching over the fence here to race at this great event. It won't happen this year.
No, but I think it will happen, and I think that's the key. And his comeback from a year ago, there's the yellow. They've waved it off. They'll leave the time for perhaps Ted Prappis or Johnny Rutherford. I think Dismore has what it takes. I think he proved it in his comeback. He has already won in other forms of cars. I think he has the stuff it takes to be an IndyCar driver. Let's go trackside for an update with Jerry Punch.
Well, behind me, sitting in the car, 54-year-old Johnny Rutherford getting set for what would be a qualifying attempt, probably the last shot he'll have for his 25th start at Indianapolis. And just to bring you up to speed on what's happened to JR in the last half an hour, he has gone from 2:15 one practice session, 2:16 the next session, 2:17.5 the last time out, but you know it's going to take 2:19, and it's up to him with all his experience to try to make up the difference. And I'm not sure that Derek, that he can make up 2.5 miles an hour even with all his experience here at the Brickyard. 2:17.5 is the best he's been able to do here in that 91 Lola.
That's right, and Rutherford has had so many good days here at the Speedway, but trying to catch an extra 2 or 3 miles an hour definitely can put you into the danger zone, and Rutherford has been in the danger zone many times here in the past, but it's his back is against the wall. If he has confidence in the car, he's got to try and keep his foot in. But we look at Ted Prappis as he warms up, about to take his run. But let's go back to pit lane and Jerry Punch.
And the concern with Rutherford just moments ago, what Derek Walker was telling me, Derek, and maybe you can explain to the people at home, that Rutherford says when the car goes into turn 1, it tends to want to lift before it takes a set in the turn, and that concerns Rutherford. He's been around a long time. He's been, as he said, been on a lot of operating room tables. He doesn't want to go back there anytime soon, and that's the reason he can't push the button a little bit more than he wants to, but he may have to. He may have to try that in this qualifying run coming up.
Well, I always say the car gives you all the information. Make sure you read it properly. Feels the car is lifting, I'll guarantee you the car is lifting. When you push it over that limit, then you could be in trouble. Interesting, as we watch Ted Prappis here, on his warm-up lap, we saw a little wiggle from the back end of the car. He had a very loose condition in his first attempt, and he waved it off. But now he's on his first official run, and I do believe this is, in fact, his last run, his last opportunity. He's already got 2 2 strikes against this car.
That's our count here. He has taken 2 attempts, so this is the last, but I think it's moot because in any case time will run out and Prapus will not have another opportunity. Rutherford is in line and less than 5 minutes remain. The rule is very clear. If the car is rolling, if it has been through tech, the driver is in the car, the engine is running, and the car is rolling, that before 6 o'clock, that driver may make a qualifying attempt. So if Prapus finishes and Rutherford is moving, Rutherford will get his shot. 2:18.866. It's a reach, but he is within reach of Scott Goodyear's bubble time of 2:19.054. He's got to go a little faster.
He is within reach. A slight update on our information. This is in fact his 2nd attempt, but he is within reach. He needs to dig those fingernails in just a little bit more to try and get to the top of this wall. It is a steep climb, but Prapus, if the handling of this car does not deteriorate, he could successfully get in here.
Quite a run, quite a line that he's taken out of the corner. A big swoop down to the inside. Unusual line, then back up to make the wide entrance into turn 1, and now way down to the inside. He's using a lot of road.
Oh, he can do it. Prapus is over 219.3. If he can just take this up half a mile an hour, Prapus will qualify. Remember the trouble he had here last year. Had a couple of crashes, had one right on the last day of qualifying. In fact, we were live on television when he put it in the wall, so he's had a very difficult situation. The team is based out of Long Beach, California. Norm Turley, who also runs a successful Indy Lights team, runs this car for Ted Prapus. He's had a struggle, but he might make it. This is the critical lap here.
He's got a lap to go to put it in the show. And the man on the bubble, yeah, and he's up the ante to 2:19.4. He'll have the average if he can keep it together for one more lap. The man on the bubble is really not Scott Goodyear at all. If Prapus makes the show, he will officially bump Goodyear, but Goodyear in turn will bump the junior driver on that team, Mike Groff, out of the field. So Mike Groff is the man in danger of losing a ride in the Indy 500 and losing it to Ted Prapus in the final moments of qualifying. Talk about digging down and pulling it out when you need it. Prapus coming to the wire. Look at the team celebrate. They know they're in the big show.
Talk about emotion. That was Norm Turley, who has put such a huge effort in here. And Prapus's final lap again is over 219 miles an hour. Prapus has qualified for his first Indianapolis 500. A great effort by everybody in that team.
37-year-old Greek-American driver from Los Angeles. Look at them. They are going crazy. Turley is a happy camper. He is in the show.
Norm Turley, the PIG. You waited as long as you could. Congratulations.
Oh, unbelievable.
You just set a track record for throwing equipment.
God damn. I don't know what to tell you. This is unbelievable.
The security guards are making us cross the pit area. You waited as long as you possibly could. It's been a trying month, but it's all come together.
I can't believe it. It's, you know, I get more and more respect for guys like Pat Patrick and Roger Penske and Carl Haas, who've gone through this so many years. I don't know how they can do it because it's ridiculous. To come out here and do that in 6 o'clock, I mean, there is a God, and I just like to thank my family, my wife, and all my kids for putting up with all the missed time, but hey.
There it is. You're in the show, buddy. Congratulations. There's Norm Turley. He didn't want to talk to us until he made darn sure he was in the show. He threw the equipment. Dave, how about that jubilation?
But is he in the show or is he not? Prapus is on the bubble. Rutherford made it onto the racetrack. Rutherford will get his qualifying attempt. I think chances are slim, but it is not over until it's over. Prapus is the slowest qualifier. He's on the bubble, and Rutherford is on the racetrack. And this is as down and dirty, nitty-gritty as it gets. A three-time winner, a man in the twilight of his career, a man who wants desperately to make another 500 field, a man who has not seen a speed that will qualify. It's a question of how much he's willing to reach down and take a chance.
And this is exactly what Bubble Day is all about. The gun goes off, so Rutherford is officially the last man to attempt to make this field. But we saw Norm Turley there. The man was in tears just about, and he's not even the driver. That is the magnitude of what happened here to his team. One of the smallest teams here, and they make it. They qualify having had such terrible luck last year. A great day for Prapus and Norm Turley and everybody connected with that team. But eyes are on Johnny Rutherford as his wife Betty just sits I don't even know whether she has her eyes open or closed, but all she's going to do is listen and wait to hear what Tom Carnegie tells her.
I sense that Betty likewise reads the writing on the wall. We talked about that earlier in the show. I think that they know that they're going to be very, very hard-pressed to come up with the speed, and perhaps she's praying that Johnny won't take a chance that he shouldn't take at this point in what has been a distinguished career. He is the 3-time winner of the race. He has completed his first qualifying.
No. Betty knows it's no good. It's no good. 216 miles an hour, 216.8. It's over for Rutherford. We said it earlier on. There is no way you can suddenly find 3 miles an hour when your first lap is only in the 216 mile an hour range. I'm sorry, JR, it's over again.
Johnny Rutherford will not make the show, and that means that Ted Trappist will perhaps be the final qualifier. Now remember, on SportsCenter we may have an update, if indeed there is an update that quickly, on this engine story involving Gordon Johncock. You see the sadness, and we recall the celebrations of the past 3 times when Johnny Rutherford did, in fact, make the big show and won the big show. He picked up the ante to 2:17.3, but he is off the pace that it would take to make the field. Again, to recap, if you've joined us late, Gordon Johncock has qualified for the Indy 500 with a speed of 219.2, but tracing a rather convoluted lineage of the motor in that car, it has qualified apparently or allegedly a previous car in the field. It was then swapped and sold a couple of times, and it ended up in Johncock's car. That point has been raised with the officials, and if they determine that that motor is illegal, they may pull Johncock out of the field. 1 lap remaining here for Johnny Rutherford, who brings a bittersweet end to qualifying for this 1992 Indy 500.
And I believe it will be a bittersweet end. We've seen many times this year, this month in particular, how savage racing can be and how the emotions can change 180 degrees. Tears of joy from Norm Turley, and I'm sure there'll be tears of disappointment from Betty Rutherford, because she knows now that Johnny Rutherford may be on his final run at the Speedway, because there's not many opportunities left for JR to qualify for this great event.
Well, of course, the difficult struggle that he had this year to secure the funding is typical of what happens now in Indy 500 racing, but a new team has made it into the show. Norm Turley and driver Ted Trappist are, pending the outcome of that motor controversy, are the last qualifiers in the field. They will line up this way: Guerrero, Cheever, Andretti, Buick, Ford, and Ford in row 1.
Line 2, row 2, Ari Lyondike, Gary Bettenhausen, Michael Andretti.
In row 3, Scott Brayton with a Buick, Danny Sullivan fast to Chevy, and the 4-time winner and defending champion, Rick Mears.
Row 4, Bobby Rahal, a favorite here for race day, Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr.
In row 5, Stan Fox, John Andretti, and Eric Bachelard, now the 2nd fastest rookie behind Jimmy Vasser.
Row 6, Philippe Gash, Scott Pruitt, and John Paul Jr.
In the 7th row, as we check the rest of the rundown, the rookie Paul Tracy, Jeff Andretti, and Jim Crawford. Row 8 will have Al Unser and A.J. Foyt, a pair of 4-time winners, and Buddy Lazier. And the final qualifiers, as we see the emotional conclusion of qualifying here at Indianapolis. Norm Turley and Ted Trappist get the last qualifying spot. Dave Despain for Derek Daly, thank you so much for being here for Indy 500 qualifying.